You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
Hi, this is Reese Roper, and you're listening to our newest podcast ever.
Hey, everybody, this is Andrew and John, and we love this podcast because it's about us.
Welcome to Magnified Pod, the second season, our newest podcast ever. And this episode, we're counting down our top 10 emotional breakdowns of 2020. I'm Andrew.
I'm John.
And this is a special episode of MagPod. We have been away for a while. Been a while.
Some say it's been a while.
Some say. Most people would say. Many people
are saying.
Many people. Some of the best people I know. Big, strong men. This big, strong construction workers coming up to me. They're saying,
"Oh man,
tears in their eyes." They're saying, "It's been a while."
We got 2 seconds in before our president showed up.
Oof.
Former president.
Former president. Yeah.
Anyway.
Despite what he may say.
Right.
We're getting spicy up top, John.
Yeah.
So we're back for an episode where we're essentially going to be just bullshitting around a little bit. We're gonna share our individual top 10 albums of 2020, which is something we've done with the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, 2019, we shared our top 10s. I think
that was a preemptive error. Just making sure.
There's no.
Just making sure I got my buttons ready.
You got your buttons ready. And you know, I have a sneaking suspicion that you and I are going to have maybe only one, max 2 albums that are going to be the same.
It's a weird year.
It was a weird year. You and I have been hyping very different records this year, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. We've always been sort of the Venn diagram of what we listen to that we both share. It's a very narrow slice.
Yeah. I mean, we both you can't put us in a box. Mm-mm. We have a wide variety of tastes.
Yeah, we do.
But you know, it's more interesting that they diverge significantly on these lists. I will say, without a doubt, like,
we haven't shared our list, by the way, for those wondering. No. So these are all going to be surprises to both of us.
But I will say the times that you've shared your list or just recommendations, like, pretty much universally, if it's stuff that I haven't heard, I will go check it out, and then it becomes like part of my regular rotation. And I always really appreciate hearing that stuff. So I'm very eager to see your list today. But
with the exception of one band that I've been harping on for a while, that you just haven't. You probably have an idea. We gotta save our save our takes here. Save the takes a little bit. Yeah.
Let's tuck our pants in a little. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, I don't have any pants on. It's going to be hard to tuck them in.
Tucking in my PJ pants.
Oh, fair.
But before we get to all that, we have exciting news.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. So this is something that our Patreon punks already know.
Yes.
But we wanted to share this as we are rapidly approaching season 3 of Magnified Pod. We have 2 big announcements, one of which is coming season 3. Magnified Pod will be joining the Rock Candy Podcast Network. So we're joining the Rock Candy Podcast Network, which, for those who listen to our Matt Langston episode, Matt Langston of 11-7, of
Fast Feeling, Jelly
Rocks. He has his own Rock Candy recordings, and he also has a podcast network. And after we had him on, we got into some conversations with him and the rest of the Rock Candy team, and they wanted to bring us on to become one of their Rock Candy Network podcasts. And we are super, super psyched about it.
Mm-hmm.
The conversations that we've had with Matt and the other folks over at Rock Candy. I mean, John, you've already been on a Rock Candy podcast.
That's right. Common Creatives Pod. I'm a big fan of it.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just a whole network of like-minded folks, and they're different kinds of shows. But I think all of the shows and everybody at the network is kind of obsessed to different degrees about the same things that we are on this show in terms of sort of dissecting culture and the ways in which the faith scene plays a part in culture.
Right.
For some of the shows, specifically kind of the world that we talk about a lot, the Christian alternative world of the 90s and 2000s. So it's a great network and a great group of folks who are doing really interesting work. And we're really proud to be doing shows alongside them. And I think if you dig what we do, you'll probably like a lot of what they have to say on these other shows too.
Yeah, got Sacred Tension.
Mm-hmm.
You got, of course, 11D Life, which is Matt's podcast. You got Brown Sugar Diaries, which is also I think a newer edition.
Yeah.
It's her name is Erica, and it's just a good mix of voices and people. Kind of, it just always felt like it was a great extension to what we're already doing, and it felt like a good pairing. So we're really excited about that. More to come.
Yes.
In that. But John, some people might be asking, okay, then you're talking season 3. What band are you covering in season 3? We did MXPX in season 1. We wrapped up 5 Iron, which of course people are going to be wondering as well. Will we cover the new album when that comes out? Of course.
Yes, we will.
But what is going to be the next band?
It is not Mag POD, as several have suggested. We are not
no
getting down with the POD quite yet, but
no. We do feel so alive.
That's
for
true.
the very first time.
Right.
But we are going to actually be covering a bunch of bands because season 3, we are taking a compilation approach.
Mm-hmm.
We are taking a genre approach to this next season. So what does that mean? It means this next season, we're going to be covering the genre of skate punk and a lot of bands that made up that genre in the 90s. So we're going to be talking Slick Shoes. We're going to be talking Goaty Hook. We're going to be talking Value Pack, Craig's Brother, Hangnail. We're going to be covering a lot of your favorites in a season that we're going to be calling Magnified Pod Presents Pods from the Penalty Box. And I got to tell you, John, the artwork
looks dope.
This season it's some next level stuff.
Yeah,
we got our boy back, Heavy Ordnance Studios, to do the artwork for this season 3, and it's a beautiful homage to the songs from the Penalty Box compilations. Many of our listeners are probably very familiar with the songs from the Penalty Box compilations. And we figured doing a compilation approach to a season, it would make sense to kind of bring in that imagery and just the idea of comps and CD comps is a very 90s thing.
Right.
You don't really see. I mean, I discovered a bunch of bands. I think a lot of people probably discovered a bunch of bands in the 90s because of those Tooth and Nail comps, the Epitaph Punkorama, the Fat Records comps too. So that was a thing, and I felt like it was we felt like it was a good way to kind of bring all of these ideas and these bands together, because it's hard to cover one band when they don't have the oeuvre of, say, an MXPX or a Five Iron Frenzy.
Yeah.
Some of these bands kind of came and went with a few albums. But John, I don't know if you saw this. Hangnail.
Yes.
Coming back with new music.
Saw
Is
that.
this the Magpod? Is this the Magpod influence? It seems like
I think so.
Every time we decide to start covering a band and
That's right.
start covering those artists, they're coming back.
Hey man, we get those creative juices flowing. We just have our finger on the pulse of where things are headed.
Yep. I'm excited about that. I always felt like Hangnail was one of those underappreciated bands, and such sick guitar work.
Yeah. And we will cover the new Slick Shoes album, which is also after a long wait in the world as well. So there will
rotation
be new
and
things
frequency.
That's right. I think we, as you were saying, the Venn diagram of bands sort of from this world, which we're sort of committed to deconstructing on this podcast,
Right.
That we both were sort of obsessed with is pretty small.
Right.
And although I loved the punk scene and played in a punk band, and the Christian punk community was very important to me.
You slept on the punk floor. You ate the punk brand.
That's right. As we've learned many times, maybe my punk rock cred not quite as rich as yours, because this was one scene that I knew about, but I also knew about other scenes more. And so I think part of what will be exciting this season is sort of, while there are bands that I was really, really into that we're talking about, there's also bands that I really don't know very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll kind of give the season a different flavor. I think it'll be interesting, as much as we sort of divert on different subjects we talk about on the show. I think for the most part, in terms of the music, we're usually on the same page with the bands we've covered so far.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see how much that may diverge with the next season.
Yep. Craig's brother was
Right. They're
working
doing something
on-
new too, right?
They're doing something new. They put out an EP last year
Right.
that rules.
Cool.
It's really good. So that gets me excited about whatever they are going to be releasing as well. So a lot more to come.
Yes.
And we have a list of bands that we're looking to cover. And I'm sure there are going to be some bands that a lot of you will be like, oh, you got to make sure to cover so-and-so.
Right.
So send us some of those, send us some of those stories. Tell us why those certain bands should be covered, or what your experience was with them. And chances are they might be on our list. I didn't exhaust the list of artists that we're looking to cover. But yeah, send us some of your stories. Send us some of those skate punk bands,
Right.
that you grew up listening to in this Christian alternative scene.
Right.
And keep in mind that this season is going to be sort of focused in that area of skate punk. There might be some if you say like, oh, Stavesacre was big, that's not really going to be part of in this season's kind of focus, but keep that in mind when you send us some of those thoughts and experiences, those thoughts and ideas. If you
Thoughts and ideas. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, trust us. We have plans for an indie season, a hardcore season, a ska season, the punk lord willing that we continue this journey for a while. The stuff is all mapped out in the future, but we're thinking skate punk for 2021, just like everybody.
Everybody. 2021 is the return of skate punk.
So like Joe Biden's been talking a lot about.
Yeah. He's on January 20th. He's gonna do
Secretary of Skate Punk.
the Secretary of Skate.
Hey,
He's gonna do a kick flip onto the stage, and he's gonna lay his hand on his deck as he swears his oath of office.
oh boy.
He's gonna rip off his shades and be like, "Listen here, Jack."
I think you're in the running for the Secretary.
Oh,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
We'll see. Good jokes.
nailed it. Yep. So, John, there's been a lot that has happened since we've been off, taking our little break.
Indeed.
It has been I don't even remember when the last episode was.
I think September.
Was it October? When did we release our?
Oh, we did a Patreon in October.
We did a Patreon of the I bought a vampire motorcycle. We did a watch along with that classic piece of cinema. But since then, this November felt, you know how April felt like the longest month ever.
Yes.
November
saw that and was like, hold my beer.
Yeah, November was like, it just felt like forever long.
Yeah.
We just passed. It's been a month since the election as of the day we're recording this, and
That's crazy.
It feels like a fucking lifetime.
Yeah.
That the election happened, and so how did you spend election night? What was the scene like at the Potter household?
As you know, I was going into this one with very low expectations and just a hardened heart, and was not allowing myself to think that this was going to work out well. And it's not like I was gloating or anything, but a couple hours into the first night, I was just like, yep, it's not going our way. Can't get my hopes up. We'll see, but I'm not feeling good. And then each night after that, for the next few nights, it felt a little better.
Yep.
Better and better. How about you?
I was at Brian's, and
Your brother?
my brother, Brian Nelson Phelan,
Past and future guest.
past and future guest of the pod. We made some deep dish pizza
That's wonderful.
at his place, and we were both having some whiskey and some old fashions and feeling good. And then, I seem to remember there are some our Marco Polo chat that we've been doing for a while. I seem to remember some polos going back and forth, and Brian and I were feeling optimistic. And then up until returns started coming in, and we were both like, is this fucking happening again?
Yeah.
And then we did some anxious walking around the neighborhood, and but very much like you, things just got progressively better throughout the week. But that was a long week.
It was a long week.
It was exhausting. It was frustrating. And I have become less frustrated over the last month because just the way, the irrationality of Trump and the way he is functioning. Like, just imagine if Trump won and Biden was operating. There's no way any of his supporters would tolerate. Nobody should tolerate this. Literally, nobody should tolerate an election where, what is it, like 5 million more votes? And
I think it's even more than that now.
Is it more than that now?
Yeah.
I mean, and even if Biden loses, like they've contested all of these states that Trump lost, and everything has been verified and is done. It's all done. And he's still getting on TV and doing these paranoid rants. It's just so destabilizing, and it's kind of scary.
Right, because it's working for tens of millions of people who are convinced that what has been called the most secure election in American history by his administration is suddenly riddled with fraud.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, there's all kinds of evidence, all this evidence that never holds up in any sort of to any scrutiny.
have we talked about Cecily Strong's character from SNL, the girl at a party you don't want to get stuck talking to or whatever? I feel like she's come up, maybe. But she's like,
so.
And Seth, another thing, and don't, and why? And it's like, no. And I don't know if you saw the star testimony that Giuliani got. I think it was yesterday as we're recording this in Michigan. But it was some poll worker who sounded exactly like her. I would be shocked if there's not an SNL sketch by the time this pod comes out. But she was basically like, these poll books are wrong. I don't care what you say. And like the legislators were like, well, ma'am, they're not off by an amount that would make a difference. She's like, they're off by 100,000. Did you see him? I saw him. And it was wonderful. So anyway, great evidence all around. Definitely no buffoons to be seen.
Yeah. Yes. Giuliani is melting as we speak.
Literally melting.
And I'm pretty sure we haven't had a chance. It's old news at this point, the Four Seasons Landscaping Company.
It will never be old news. It's the greatest thing in the history of humanity.
It is such beautiful political theater.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was that said when the story of Trump becomes like a Steven Spielberg film,
right?
This will be the inevitable end to that film because it's so perfectly poetic.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't write something better than that.
No, it's too perfect.
It's just glorious.
Yeah.
And it's literally a Stefan sketch.
Yes, right.
The newest club is
yeah.
Four Seasons Landscaping. This place has everything. It's next to a crematorium and a sex shop.
It's so perfect. So perfect.
Oh God. Man. I love it. And it's so like even like the lowest stakes things. This is just so emblematic of the kind of leadership is like, it's they can't even fess up to the lowest of stakes errors. Mm-hmm. If you can't, like if they got up there and they pulled a Paul Rudd and we're like, who would have thought? Not me. Hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Oh,
if they made a joke about it,
right.
I mean, they could have like turned that around,
right,
and laugh at themselves. But
never.
There's no humor. There's no sense of humor about anything, and this just like you had like one of the greatest self dunks in American politics.
Yes,
and you could have like made it. You could have made it an iconic, funny moment for your campaign, and instead. Right. You're just like, oh no! This is totally legit. Totally
meant to do this. Meant to do everything.
Oh my God!
Wonderful stuff.
Yep. So, hopefully, as much as I love dunking on Trump, I hope to never have to talk about him again for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I hope he becomes irrelevant and goes away forever. That would be my favorite.
We're gonna have to work on our Biden impressions for the pod for 2021.
Yeah, that's true. It's mostly gonna be calling people Jack. That's
hey, thanks, man. Thanks, Jack.
Hey, look, hey, would you shut up, man? Listen here, Jack. That's a bunch of malarkey. That sort of stuff. Like you're a 1930s radio host. Yeah, see?
I'm into it.
That's a bunch of malarkey, see?
Yes, that
look at here. Look at here, Jack. I was talking to my old pal Corn Pop.
Corn Pop, the second greatest thing to ever happen to humanity.
I hope Corn Pop makes it into his administration.
I think he's
Secretary of Defense.
The breakfast cereals. Send Corn Pop in. They'll straighten it out. He'll straighten it out. No, I was just gonna say, yeah, just looking back on all these years, all the smiles, all the tears, looking back on 2020, like what an insane year in so many ways. I'll touch on that a little bit in our top 10 albums. But it's nice to me that while there's so many awful things about this year, when I look back on it, a lot of it will be about Five Iron Frenzy and doing this podcast with you. It seriously has been. I mean, there's a handful of things that have truly been points of light and joy for me this year, and this has been a big part of it. So,
oh man,
I'm very grateful to have this year with all its nonsense. Also, have the Five Iron nonsense too. So
it's this year has been like an unmitigated disaster for me, like personally, in just about every conceivable way. And I've really done my best to turn it around. And
hey, man,
you and Five Iron and MagPod Nation and the Patreon punks and everybody has carried me through some of my darkest times this year.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for all of you. You know, we didn't get to do a Thanksgiving episode, so if we're talking about things we're thankful for. Thankful for my bro John Potter.
Back at you.
And I'm just thankful for all you guys. And kind of transitioning from there, like thankful for all the people who have made MagPod a part of their 2020, because we've been getting a lot of notifications of people who have MagPod in their top Spotify Wrapped podcasts.
Yeah.
So that's so rad, and I'm humbled by that. There's only about 97 billion podcasts out there,
right? And
the fact that we what did we put out? We put out how many minutes? We dropped over 4,400 minutes of content. It was so stupid. That is so much. That is too much content. But
it was wild to see people like, yes, first of all, thanks for sharing that people have been saying we were like their number one podcast or in their top or whatever.
Yeah.
And please share those if you haven't yet. We want to see more of those.
Yeah.
But seeing the cold hard data of people having listened to thousands and thousands of minutes of us really just makes it sink in. Like, oh yeah, we've done a lot of talking.
Yeah, over in 22 countries as well.
Like, yeah, man.
Like, and the number of streams and followers is up in the 100%. You know, we are up. Listeners by 218% and streams up 824%. You know, it's like, so we're building something with you all here, and we're just grateful that you guys keep listening to our long rambling nonsense. It means a lot, and we're hoping that you stick with us into season 3. Though we're joining a podcast network, we can assure you that none of
silliness,
none of the silliness, none of the lame jokes are going to change. We're going to have the games.
Yep.
We're going to have the conversations. We're going to get more guests on, and just there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, man. All the nonsense it's baked in, baby.
Yeah, it is. It's part of the old MagPod recipe.
That's right. A dash of nonsense and a cup of, I don't know. That's enough.
There you go. Yeah. So I wanted to pull up my Spotify Wrapped just to kind of, I don't know if we should we talk top albums before, because I feel like if I talk about some of my top 2020 albums or whatever, that it might give away.
Yeah, I think we should take a little break.
Okay.
Hear from one of these exciting new partners of ours, a podcast on our network.
Okay. Yeah.
And then come back and get into albums. But before that, can I shout out a particular member of our community?
Yeah, for sure. Do it.
We have a new Patreon punk who we shouted out on the Patreon, but not on the proper feed. So John Carmack.
Oh, shit.
Coming in at top level Patreon punkage. Thanks so much, man. John, welcome to the Patreon family.
And this means that John will, at this level, he's going to come on as a guest of Magnified Pod. And he wants to come on for an episode to talk about the new 5 Iron record when it drops.
Perfect.
So we will look forward to John coming on and discussing that.
For sure.
Whenever 5 Iron decides to drop the record. That is, as a recording, that is TBD.
Right. Probably next month-ish.
I'm guessing somewhere. I feel like I don't remember if that was on
the Kickstarter. It says
January.
Kickstarter.
It says January. Okay, so yeah.
We will see.
But
thank you, John. And then one other thing, wanted to read an Apple Podcast review we haven't gotten a chance to do yet.
Yes.
You can always leave us a review, give us a rating. We will read it on the pod. This one comes from Rosie in Dallas. Subject.
Oh, okay.
Do you know Rosie?
No.
Okay, I don't either.
Rosie.
Of course. Rosie O'Donnell. No, that's a weird joke. Boo.
Rosie Perez.
Sure, that's
Rosie the Riveter.
There's Rosie the Riveter still hanging around in Dallas. Life-changing is the subject.
Oh, wow.
Before I listened to Magnified Pod, I had no friends, no girlfriend, depression, and no life. Those things haven't changed, but the pod is pretty good. 5 out of 7. Excellent work, Rosie. We encourage more reviews whenever possible.
I love the whole 5 out of 7 meme that was from do you remember? This was like from like 5 years ago that some guy gave a review of Fight Club 5 out of 7 and called it a perfect score or something like that.
So weird. That sounds like somebody who'd be giving a Fight Club that score. Oh boy.
Perfect score, 5 out of 7.
5 out of 7. Well, thank you, Rosie.
Thank you.
Should we take a little break?
I think we should. Then when we come back, we will break down our top 10 records of 2020.
Hey guys, my name is Matt Langston. I am a music producer, a mix engineer, and an avid unicorn enthusiast. And I would like to invite you over to my podcast, 11D Life. On 11D Life, we get to talk to your favorite artists, producers, and creators about what makes them tick. We take deep dives into where they get their juiciest inspirations from and how they keep from being cynical about all of it. We even get to pull back the curtain on my band, 11D7, and share some fun insider tips and tricks for our fellow bandmates and creators out there. So be sure to check out 11D Life right here on the Rock Candy Podcast Network and wherever you get your favorite shows.
All right, we're back.
Yeah.
And we're talking top records of 2020. There was a lot of good music this year.
I'm intrigued for so many reasons about these collections because I felt like it was a weird year for music, but continue.
I mean, I feel like for your
bullshit tastes.
If your bullshit list. No, I feel like there were a number of classic old school bands that have been around for a while that have put out music this year. And I was happy. I was happy with some of the releases this year.
I was happy over here.
Yeah, it's this fucking guy. I'm just saying, hey, you want to be like over here? You're just like, oh fuck, I don't give a fuck.
As far as this year goes, musically, I was happy. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. Keep going.
The thing about the music that was released this year is I liked it.
Yeah. Why don't you do some Spotify Wrapped, and I'm going to unwrap some of these Starburst Sweet Heats.
Ooh,
while
yeah.
you talk.
Yeah, because those Starburst Sweet Heats, we talked about those on our episode
About a vampire motorcycle?
About a vampire motorcycle. So why don't you that was for those who are wondering.
Sorry to derail us.
What the fuck we're talking about? Starburst, 3 years ago, maybe 2
Sounds
years
right.
ago. I don't remember.
We were doing the pod, so
Yeah, we were doing the pod. They put out some spicy Starbursts, and I picked them up just randomly at the gas station near John's, and they were super good, and then they were discontinued. So I purchased these expired Starbursts
it didn't stop us.
on eBay.
Yeah,
And they're still delicious.
yeah, they are.
Yep. All right. So my most listened to song
Mm-hmm.
is a song that is not new, but it's one that is always on my playlists, and it's one of those songs that gets me psyched and gets me pumped for the day. And it's the Common Writer song "Classics of Love."
Cool, into it.
It's one of my go-to jams. If I'm ever I need a pick me up, it gets me going. So my top songs, let me see. Oh, my biggest podcast binge listen was Us.
Cool.
Wah wah. Let's see. I listened to 848 artists this year.
Seems like a lot.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. My top artists were Five Iron,
Of course.
Slick Shoes,
Mm-hmm.
Masked Intruder, Boss Tones, and Screeching Weasel.
Boss Tones.
I listened to over 30,000 minutes, and skate punk is my top genre.
Hey, sounds like a good way to prepare for a season about skate punk.
Oh, hey.
Did the Boss Tones put out a new album?
Nope.
You were just feeling the Boss Tones.
Yeah, I love the Boss Tones. I listened
Yeah,
to I listened to a shitload of the Boss Tones.
That rules. I supported it.
Yep.
Were you in the top 1.1% for them or something?
I was in the top 0.1% for Five Iron.
Yeah. As you and I discussed, I have a family account, so all my algorithms are just shot to hell.
Big Frozen fan, John Potter.
Four of my 5 top songs are from Frozen 2. The 5th is from Taylor Swift, which, hey, we're T-Swift defenders, but that was definitely my wife.
My wife.
That was definitely my wife. And top 5 artists, Five Iron was in there, which was certainly my contribution. But I think the rest are mainly Jenny. From Jenny. So yeah, my thing is all messed up, but at least Five Iron got in there.
Yeah, just squeaked by. Yes. So I'll just go off what I was just saying about my top 5 artists. I'm gonna go into my list and just say the newest Screeching Weasel record, Some Freaks of Atavism, is in my top 10. I'm not ranking. I know you're a ranker.
I'm a ranker, classic ranker.
Classic ranker, just a classic kind of ranker guy. But Screeching Weasel, Some Freaks of Atavism. I feel like I've talked to you about Screeching the Wheeze.
Yes.
You wheeze the juice, but you're not screeching the wheeze.
I do. I like to screech the wheeze. I don't know how. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. For some reason, it just kind of fell off my radar that happened. But I obviously need to go listen to it. So
yeah, I do. I listened to so much Screeching Weasel this year, and there's Some Freaks of Atavism. I've listened to this album a lot. I think. So while you tell, you're going to say your top one?
yes, I will go descending order.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is not going to be a surprise to you. We were texting about this.
Yeah.
We did some sort of summer mid-year check-in on albums we were liking, didn't we?
I feel like we did.
I feel like a lot of the ones that I'm going to mention I've already talked about on the pod. So I have for sure talked about Phoebe Bridgers' record Punisher.
Yes.
It's the album that I've listened to the most this year. It feels very much like the soundtrack to quarantine for me. I'm always going to associate it with that going forward. I think your brother said something similar maybe. But yeah, I mean, like I was kind of saying before, a lot of these albums feel like different aspects of 2020 to me.
Right.
And this one, the album closer is the song I Know the End, which is just like beautiful. It starts out, it's kind of about the end of the world, appropriately enough. It starts out kind of small and it builds, and then there's like an orchestra and horns, but then it just ascends into this full guttural scream at one point. And I can't tell you how many walks I took this year where I just like silently screamed along with her in the song, just like unloading everything about this year. But yeah, I have always liked her, but this record I really feel like she went to kind of the next level. There's a variety of kinds of songs, but yeah, as you have alluded to, there's definitely plenty of being in the feels on it. But there are also kind of these moments of release like I was talking about on. So anyway, yeah, I couldn't avoid the Phoebe Bridgers record being my number one.
Yeah, I'm an emo dude. I love me some emo, but this is not the year for me to do a self-inflicted emo.
Yes.
And from I think I was talking to Jason Zyment, our shadow producer. I think it was him who was saying, yeah, maybe don't listen to this record this year.
Right. Yeah.
I think there's some stuff about relationships or things falling apart and some other things like that. So I'm like, yeah, I want, which is why I was listening to like a lot more upbeat music this as will be reflected in my list.
I almost feel like I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the same reasons, but yeah, I'm eager to hear more.
Which flavor you got over there? You got that?
Just
you need to chew a little bit more into the mic there, John.
Well, I'm just munching down on a pipe and pineapple.
Pipe and pineapple is the shit.
That's the shit.
That is the good one. It's the opposite of the regular Starburst flavor, where yellow is the worst.
Right.
And this one, yellow, is the best.
That's true.
There's because I feel like in this there's a mango and a strawberry. Is there strawberry?
There's a watermelon. And a strawberry mango. Flaming orange, pipe and pineapple.
Yeah. The strawberry mango is a little, I feel like, is the most underwhelming.
Right.
Of them.
Certainly has the least kick.
Yeah. It could be that it's expired over a year and a half ago.
They all taste like burning.
Yeah, they all come with hallucinations.
Whatever. Everybody send me all your expired candies, gummies, what have you.
Yep. So my next one, this is an album that I feel like might be the one album where we have some crossover. Idles Ultramono.
Hell yeah.
I don't remember. Did we talk about this? Were you the one that said this new Idols record rules? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know they had an album coming out. As I think,
Yes.
I think that's how it went down.
It did,
And-
because you put their 2018 album on your list for that year, Joys and Active Resistance.
Joys and Active Resistance, yes.
And I knew them for sure when you put them on your list, but it wasn't as revered as it would become for me. And so after that, I got way into that record and I was like really heavily anticipating the new one.
Yeah.
So I think I heard it before you did. And I was just like, dude,
Yeah.
fucking rules.
Yep. Yes. The song Grounds.
Yeah.
I mean, and War too. I mean, this the two very solid opening tracks for the record.
Yeah.
And it was this it was this record that Pitchfork reviewed that inspired me to
All right.
make a ranty post on Facebook about like how unbearable Pitchfork is in their reviews, where it's just like their songs are a little bit too on the nose, and they're like I'm just like, oh god, you guys are so unbearable. Like whatever Pitchfork. I don't know why I hate read Pitchfork reviews, but but I do.
I understand.
But noisy British post-punk noise rock. What would you call them?
That's, I was going to ask what you would say, because I feel like they are obviously in the realm of punk. I think
Yes.
post-punk is probably closest, but they are insistent that they're not a punk band.
Right.
Which, yeah, I don't know. Post-punk, post-hardcore, dark British punk, something in that
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, but all of their messages in their
Very punk.
songs is because on their Spotify bio they say passionate, political, and darkly comedic. The first two albums from Idols touch on everything from sexism and racism to Brexit and nationalism to toxic masculinity. Like,
Yeah, man.
Fuck yeah.
They rule.
Yeah. So I'm like very obviously into all of that.
Yeah.
And you look at some of the, other artists that fans also like. I know approximately zero of them.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
interesting.
they're all
British.
UK, British, noise rock or post punk bands. But
Yeah. Yeah.
if you haven't checked out Idols, you should.
I will say a little bit more about that one shortly.
Oh shit.
Okay, completely different vibe. My number 2 is the Haim album,
Okay.
Women in Music Part 3. This one and the next one on my list in particular are sort of the most outliers on my list in terms of them being more or less straight ahead pop. I've always liked Haim. I think I said this on the show. I've always enjoyed them, but this album really feels like a step up to me. It felt like kind of the album of summer. To me, it's very, I don't know if cheery is the right word, but it's just like these kind of expertly crafted pop songs, a wide variety of rock styles, but they're all bangers in different ways. They're all just like these perfect pop songs, and it, very different from Idols in terms of its sort of outlook. But yeah, I've always liked them, but I became huge fans of the band with this record, and just really impressed with their songwriting and with the different kinds of songs they put together for this one. So
Yeah, another one of those artists and bands that I've never really listened to. I've never sat down and listened to a full Haim record. The Days Are Gone album cover I'm familiar with, but I've never listened. And they're sisters, right?
they are, yeah.
Okay.
Talented fam.
Yes. Now looking at a picture, I don't really see the resemblance at all.
Right.
JK.
Jokes. Haim jokes.
Anything else you want to say about that? Is there a song you think I should check out? I mean, Summer Girl seems to be one of their
Summer
top.
Girl's a great song. The Steps is a great song. I mean, truly feel like you can't go wrong with this album. But the vibe, like I listened to this when we were outside a lot this summer, just had it on the background a lot. That's kind of the feel. So it's a little less of sort of like a winter rocker. But yeah, I don't know. Los Angeles, Summer Girl, Hallelujah. Those are all great. Now I'm in it. Anyway.
Nice. Check it out. This is another album that we both talked about as this year went along, and the sort of prophetic nature of the record and the timing of the record. Suicide Machines, Revolution Spring.
Oh my God, I forgot that album came out. I got to do some adjusting.
that album came out 2 weeks essentially after quarantine and everything just went to shit with COVID.
Right.
And, just months before George Floyd, and the songs on this record talking about, the album opens with a blistering critique of the police.
Yeah.
With a song called Bully in Blue. And so, yeah, there's a lot of solid songs on here. It's, I felt like it really felt like this was an album that, you talk about albums of 2020. I feel like this one feels very much like capturing the darkness and frustration and anger of the political scene.
Yeah.
Of 2020.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I'm calling it audible and making some changes on the fly. So.
Okay. Somebody's getting bumped.
Yeah, sorry. It's somebody who will be funny to talk about later who's getting bumped. Anyway, yes, hard agree. We've talked about the record a fair amount on the pod already, but yeah, it's wonderful. Somehow that feels like spring, which feels like another life ago or something.
March feels like this year has been 47 years long.
100%. Yeah.
Like every month feels like, like November, it just like all of it just feels so stretched out.
Yeah. I wonder how next year will compare. Okay. Now for the most surprising entry on my list for me.
I'm ready.
The Chicks.
Oh, fascinating.
Formerly Dixie Chicks.
Yes.
Did not expect the Dixie Chicks / the Chicks to make my top 10, and yet number 3.
Damn, dude.
I know. I mean, we talked about this on the pod somewhere too, Patreon, I don't know where, but like I've always sort of appreciated them. I wouldn't say I was a big Dixie Chicks fan, but I could recognize their abilities, and I appreciated them, kind of sticking it to the scene that they came from. Mm-hmm. Always liked their attitude. But this album really, I feel like, kind of moves away from, there are country tinged songs to be sure, but mostly these are just pop bangers, kind of like the Haim record, just like wall to wall, again, kind of perfectly crafted pop songs. It kind of gets in and out. It's not too long. I'd say every song is great. Yeah, it's not a band I expected to see on my list, but I gotta be me. Jack Antonoff, who I've shouted out on the show before, he produced a ton of stuff in like the last 10 years. And I really like his kind of production sound, and he produced this record. That sound is kind of all over it. And yeah, it's sort of this metaphor for this dude who screwed her over, using that relationship ending. It's called Gaslighter, the album. Mm-hmm. And it's like using that as a metaphor for sort of, again, 2020 and patriarchy and them kind of breaking out of that. So anyway, I feel confident. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe there's some chicks' heads out there. But I feel like I'm putting myself out on a limb by including it here. But I really love this album, so had to go in there.
Another one of those records that I think I listened to the single when it came out and watched the music video, but I don't really think I went back and listened to it. There are some other country records that this year that came out that I did not give the proper time. Like Jason Isbell had an album that came out this year, and
Yes.
My jump. I don't know if that's on your list or not, but
It's an honorable mention.
We'll
get there.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like this is not the year of country for me.
No.
I should have went back and listened to more of those records. So good reminders.
Sure. Yeah.
This is a big ska year. The Inevitables, their self-titled debut record, their successful Kickstarter, of which I was a supporter. It's a sort of two-tony ska sounds, kind of. It's not like super third wavy, but it does have some of those two-tony elements and some third wavy ska punk in there.
Mm-hmm.
But you got Vinny Fiorello, former drummer of Less Than Jake.
Yep.
You got members of Real Big Fish, The Interrupters, Big D and the Kids Table. So it's a real who's who, if you will. And it's another one of those records that I feel like I've listened to like 5 records over and over and over again this year. And since the Inevitables album dropped, it's been one of those records that it's just so easy. There's certain albums that are just so easy for me to throw on again and again and again, because they just make me feel good. They make me feel hyped. The Inevitables is one, Screeching Weasel is another. And if you guys you've been listening to us talk about Five Iron for a while, I would recommend going over and listening to the Inevitables, because I'm assuming you dig them ska joints.
Yeah, we talked about them on the pod when we were promoting the Pick It Up documentary screening that would feature the Inevitables. Their like Kickstarter was kind of wrapped in with that one. So it was on my radar from that, and then I just never have listened to it. So another great reason to go check it out. I'm eager to check it out. I guess
it just on your radar.
Yeah, it fell off my radar, man. Checking that out. See, this is good. Yep. Later I'm going to be like, bro, did you know the Inevitables record came out this year? And you're going to be like, yeah, bro.
Bro. Have you ever heard of the Suicide Machines, bro?
Forgot about them. Okay.
Every now and then.
I know what you're doing. I hope other people know what that half a second was. Nowadays, everybody want to talk.
They got something to say. Nothing comes out when they move lips. A bunch of gibberish. Motherfuckers act. Suicide Machines didn't release an album in March.
Anakins and Panikins and Suicide Machine Ramekins. Okay. The next one we've also talked about the next one on the pod for sure. I went on a bit of a journey with this album this year, but Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. A lot of people have this as like their number one or very top album, and even at the time people were giving it perfect reviews, as we were saying. And we kind of had this mini conversation of like, what do you think, is this warranted? And I was a little bit like, I don't know, like I'm a longtime fan of Fiona Apple, as I like all her albums. And I said I liked it at the time when we talked about it, but that I needed to spend more time with it. And it really grew on me. Like, I think you kind of just have to get on its wavelength. It's very raw. And initially I felt like that meant it was a little formless. Like, there are not many sort of classically constructed pop songs on it. Like I said, there's a lot of like dogs barking on it and things like that.
The first song ends with her sort of like squealing.
Yes, it does.
I don't really know how else to. It's or like a dolphin.
Yeah, sure. It sounds like a dolphin. That's correct. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, that is a very Fiona Apple thing of like doing something that's almost like, oh, I feel weird that you did that. That's like almost too much. But then I don't know. It's very intimate, and it feels very appropriate for 2020. That's sort of like, it feels like she kind of recorded it in her living room, which I think she basically did. And I don't know, it's almost like
that doesn't mean that the production quality isn't really good.
No, it is. It's just like,
it is.
it's, you know, some of her more recent records, she kind of has this lusher sort of, even like hip hoppy beats on some songs or like strings. This is not that at all. It kind of feels like a musical even at times. The songs have a lot of different elements to them and they kind of go in and out of different styles, but I'm really into it. So anyway, it took me a while. It was one of several items on this list of artists whose albums I didn't love at first and took some time, but at the end it really, really shot up to the top. So anyway, if you have listened and didn't quite get it, I might recommend just like staying with it a while.
I need to give it some more time, I think.
Another one that's not necessarily going to be great for you if you're trying to avoid emotional intensity, but nonetheless, still great.
I wanted to play a clip from my next top album.
Okay.
Of course I'm on tour. I'm driving a Porsche over the floorboard.
I can barely hear that.
Wearing a Ford Taurus, getting an abortion and a divorce at the same time. The hair's supporting.
That's Fiona, right?
But I'm planning. I'm planning. That's why you're panicking. And you're looking and staring at mannequins. And I'm going.
Oh, man. That guy has just further revealed himself to be worse and worse as the years gone on.
Yep.
But that clip will never die on this podcast.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I will say it now, as I've said before, and I will continue to say it. That is literally the one and only funny thing that Chris D'Elia has ever said.
It's pretty good though.
His stand-up is unbearable.
He should just do that for an hour. I probably made this exact same joke before when we talked about it.
Yeah, he
Anyway.
sucks. He sucks. Anyway.
He's not on my top 10.
No, he's not in my top 10. My next album that is in my top 10 is who is going to be the first band that we're going to cover in season 3.
Hey.
Slick Shoes, Rotation, and Frequency.
All right.
Our boy Steve Kravac are back with the boys, back in the studio with the boys, pumping out some shreddy bangers.
Yes.
This is some of the strongest material that the dudes have done in their entire career. And I love the guitar work a lot. I think everybody brought it on. I think Ryan's voice sounds the best it's ever sounded. I think Joe's drumming is as tight and as fast, and like everybody's just like all over the place in terms of just like the melodies and the guitar work and the technical nature of the record. I know that my brother, who never really listened to Slick Shoes growing up at all, like he was like Slick Shoes was not one of the bands that he was into. I was, but even Brian was like, this album rules. So for people who, you don't even need to be like an old Slick Shoes fan to throw on Rotation and Frequency and be like, oh shit, this rules.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to dive deeper into it in the coming weeks.
Boom.
All right. Number 5.
Yeah.
Idols, Ultramono. You already covered it all very well, but yeah, I would just say another sort of way that it's a 2020 album for me. It feels this is the like hardest probably record on my list. Deals with anxiety and war, as you said. And I mean, yeah, like to the point of the thing that you read, like they do not shy away from sort of the darkness of social issues and personal issues. I will say if this feels a little darker and more stripped down than Joy as an Act of Resistance for me, and it doesn't quite match the highest highs of that record, but I feel like overall it's probably a stronger, more concise album. And yeah, like you said, that, you know, there's kind of been this critique of them of like, their stuff sounds very sort of 70s punk in terms of guitar and the lyrics, and just that the people have kind of said like it's almost like these cliches. But that's what 70s punk is. It's like anthems, And he's got the song, or they've got the song Mr. Motivator, and he says in lyrics, how'd you like them cliches, after like a list of them. So I feel like he's all kind of responding to the sort of pitchforky type responses you were talking about. But anyway, album rules.
Yep. A sort of an unexpected album for me that came on my radar because of our boy Jason, Shadow Producer.
Cool.
Dance Gavin Dance.
Oh yeah, right on.
Afterburner. He sent maybe one of their songs, one of their music videos a while ago, and just like talked about the absurdity of some of their lyrics.
Multiple stab wounds.
The song 3 Wishes, where the chorus is just multiple stab wounds, yeah. But it goes from like this really high, pretty, clean vocals by Tillian, the lead singer, who does the clean vocals, and into this really heavy, brutal, multiple stab wounds chorus. And I'm like, this is pretty amazing. And then I started listening to the record, and Will Swan is the lead guitarist rather and he's like essentially the founder of Dance Gavin Dance, and he plays that's those sort of genty meadly kind of riffage, and which that I'm super into. And something that I had mentioned on the pod earlier this summer, I think, was when I was talking about this record, was I didn't give Dance Gavin Dance a chance for the longest time, even though I had heard of them before. Because
a chance, Gavin Chance.
I never give them a chance, Gavin Chance, because the band name is dumb. Right. And I assumed,
it almost seems like it's kind of a joke.
Yes.
Like you said, multiple stab wounds, but then you get into it and it's great.
But the thing is that their songwriting is great. Their technical ability is off the charts. But they also, while their writing can be cryptic, they also don't seem to take themselves so seriously.
Right.
To a point where it's just like they experiment with a bunch of different styles. So they got that sort of metalcore, heavy post-hardcore bangers with some of those shreddy, meadly guitars. But then they throw in some like Latin and funk grooves. And then there are some songs where they like will have rap in it. And it's just like they're kind of all over the place, and it keeps it interesting. And they've got a significant following and really passionate fan base. So,
cool.
But yeah, I would people should check out 3 Wishes, and the entire video is just like fan submitted stuff of like people brushing their teeth and like
right.
It's a weird video, but anyway.
Yeah.
Give him a chance, Gavin Chance.
Please do. I'm just picturing a headline like, take a chance, Gavin Chance on Hot Quintet, Dance Gavin Dance.
Yep. And then
5 out of 7.
A perfect 5 out of 7. That copywriter would be fired.
One of the things that sucks about this list in the context of 2020 is that normally when you create your favorite albums list, you're like, I've either seen some of these people live this year and it was great, or I can't wait to see them when the tour starts, and we're going to see none of them.
Right.
Hopefully a lot of these acts tour again whenever that is possible. But there's so many songs from these records, and the ones that you're talking about too, like, as you were talking about Dance Gavin Dance, I was like, I'd like to see them live. That sounds really fun. I'd like to see a lot of these bands live. Anyway, we'll get there one day. Speaking of bands that will be more possible for me to see than others, my number 6 is Dead, D-E-H-D. You know them?
I do not.
I didn't either until this year. They are a Chicago band, a trio. Their record Flower of Devotion came out this year. It's possible I heard about them, but they were not really on my radar until this album, and I heard a few people talking about it, and it's great. It's kind of dream pop, you know. It's got like this very reverby guitar, kind of that wall of sound style of rock, but then it's got these powerhouse vocals from Emily Kempf, who's the lead singer, and it's just kind of there are for sure like harsh elements to it, but it's kind of again sort of classic rock, sort of dream pop songs, and they just sound great. Really became a big fan of this band Dead, and hope to see them very soon. But they're my number 6.
That reminded me that I was supposed to see Between the Buried and Me.
Oh, that's right. You had the special VIP package and everything.
I did. Yeah. Not sure when that's ever going to happen again. But I'm not anticipating seeing music for another year at least.
Yeah, probably not. I was going through, I Venmo'd somebody something yesterday, and I was looking through my Venmo history, and I had paid a friend for a ticket to see Nick Cave and Wise Blood, which was a lineup I was super excited about. And in the like description I wrote, I put Dream Concert, and that concert didn't happen. So anyway, eventually.
Another band, another album previously discussed. As I indicated when I did talk about this record earlier this year, I said this would probably end up on my top 10, and it did. Newfound Glory's Forever and Ever Times Infinity.
Fascinating. I need to listen.
Yeah, so if you grew up listening to Newfound Glory and their combination of pop punk plus sometimes they have those little hardcore breakdown moments in their riffs. Sometimes people will, the other bands that like 4 Year Strong and other easy core bands that have a poppy element, but then like really like sort of heavy riffs. But if you like pop punk songs about girls and love, Newfound Glory is the band for you, and they are fun. They really know how to write an earworm hook.
Yeah, I should listen. Newfound Glory, much like several of the bands we'll cover in this upcoming season, are on the list of bands that I saw open for MXPX, and that was about the end of our relationship. So I should check that out more deeply.
Agreed.
Okay. A guy who is not like Newfound Glory is my number 7, Sufjan Stevens.
I thought that might be on your list.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't obvious. It's like a John fish in a barrel type situation if Sufjan puts out a record. But I will say this is another one of those list of albums from my favorite artists who initially these weren't one of my favorites of theirs. Several of those here. And, he kind of goes back and forth, as he always has, between like folk and then sort of freaky electronic impulses he has. And this one is definitely in the latter camp. So for me, it was a little harder to get into. Not that I don't welcome him straying from the folk path. But this one is pretty out there. But I will say when it hits, it really hits. And there's a lot of moments where it just suddenly clicks into place for me. I've talked a lot about how my like escape this summer was laying on my hammock and listening to music late at night. And I listened to this album many times in that context, and it sort of took on a new level of appreciation for me listening to those times. But again, this kind of feels like 2020 to me. It feels he's angry. He's not pleased with the world or with, I think if you're reading it the way that I am, the way that the evangelicals or the church or whatever that he's part of has become this destructive force, and how he's upset to be affiliated with that theology, that sort of nationalism. So anyway, I think there's a lot to sort of chew on here, and it is weird, but I like a lot about it. We talked about T Swift. Folklore does not make my list, but that feels like another kind of classic album of 2020 in that it's like an artist that I really respect doing a sort of weird introspective album that I like but don't love. I kind of respect it more than I actually really like it, but this one kind of slipped up my list eventually to a place of deeper appreciation. So anyway.
Another album I haven't given a listen to. So
it's worth checking out.
My next record, the 1975 Notes on a Conditional Form.
Cool.
I think there are chances that you might actually like this record more than any of their previous records.
Okay.
Because
I do like them. I like them a fair amount.
Because they do have Phoebe Bridgers on a number of tracks.
Cool.
And this album is all over the place. They open with it's an instrumental track essentially set to Greta Thunberg's speech that she gave sometime last year.
Cool.
Talking about climate change. That's the opening of the album. And then it goes into this like blistering sort of hardcore punk song. And then it like transitions into like a pop song. And they're just like, and then they have like some kind of bangers and bleepy bloopy things going on. And I've always liked the 1975, and I love that they went pretty experimental on this record. And I think for the most part, some people might think it's bloated or whatever, but I think for the most part, it's successful in what it does. Yeah. It's their longest album, but there are times when I feel like I'm listening to either Sigur Rós with some moments, or like even some like I don't know. There's some instrumental tracks that have like some elements that are like, this feels like it could be that style, and then they go into like some really hooky pop songs that are, and then there's one of the songs that has Phoebe Bridgers on it that I think has a really funny line in it. The song
is that Jesus Christ 2005 God Bless America?
It is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's a great song.
This is one, this is exactly what I was talking about. You would come correct with these albums that I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, I got to check that one out. So for sure, I will do a deeper dive on this. I know I've seen people talk about this, Apart From You as being one of their favorites. And yeah, I've always liked this band too. I've just never given them the proper deep dive, and I should check this out. They played Dirty Nellies, the bar venue a few blocks from my house, maybe like a year or two ago. And I
really
should have gone to that. Yeah, it was like a big show for that place.
Oh, man. That would have ruled.
Yeah, man. Someday.
Damn.
I fucked up.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah.
Cool. I will check that one out for sure. My next one, an Andrew favorite, Perfume Genius. Set My Heart on Fire Immediately is the album. I think I mentioned this at the halfway point of the year too, and you're like, I think that's one that's more for you than for me. I will say, so he kind of started off, he's more or less a solo act. He's got a band now, and his domestic and professional partner is kind of the one other main player in the group with him, but he's more or less one guy. And his first few albums very quiet and weird, kind of Fetch the Bolt Cutter Z. But he hit a couple of albums there where there was much more sort of like rock influence, and that's when I really got into him. And this feels more in line with the earlier records, just in terms of it's a slower. It's another one that kind of took a bit for me to warm to it. Not initially one of my favorites, but I would say there are songs of his that are more sort of shred driven that I think you would really like. I'm not sure that this is the album, but there's some real beauty on this album. There's some funky moments. I do like it as a collection overall. So yeah, new Perfume Genius record, number 8.
My next one is Magnetic Fields Quickies.
Oh man, forgot about that too.
It is a 28 song record. It's just about 46 minutes long.
Right.
The album has, so the songs are between 17 seconds and 2 minutes and 35 seconds. So, some of the songs are, not every song is a winner. But I think it's a great record.
Yeah.
And has the just classic Stephen Merritt darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Day the Politicians Died is like a quintessential Magnetic Fields song.
Cool.
And it's basically talking about how everybody's happy and great now that all the politicians are dead. And I'm like, yep, okay. And then there's the song The Biggest Hits in History. My Stupid Boyfriend is another great song.
Yeah, these all sounds like Magnetic Fields.
Yeah, of course. So I really recommend if you've got 46 minutes and to listen to 28 songs, you're set. I
feel like this must have come up when we talked halfway through the year, because I remember saying the sort of go-to classic release for them, 69 love songs, and just that but out of those 69, I don't know, 95% of them are great. That he can't really write a bad song. They're so prolific. And the fact that you can put out a release like that and just be like, yeah, but guess what? Almost all of these 69 songs are great. This was on my radar. I was anticipating it. And then I maybe listened a little bit and then just kind of fell off my radar. I don't know, certainly not through being disappointed or anything. So got to get that on my list.
Yep.
To check out further. Good pick.
Yeah.
Okay, winding down. Another one, SAULT, SAULT. Do you know them?
You've probably mentioned them to me before, but I do not.
I don't even know if I have, because I was going to say it's another one that they were not on my radar. I mean, I don't think they were really on anybody's radar until pretty recently. But another one that only until very recently were they really somebody I did a deep dive on, and they're kind of a weird. It's like a mysterious British R&B collective. They've done 2 albums this year and 2 albums in 2019. So 4 albums in the last 2 years. And they're all good. Again, it's kind of very different from Magnetic Fields. But just in terms of, you would think having that many songs would mean on the whole, there are more misses than hits, but pretty great all around. I think they're kind of a couple of producers that seems to be what the situation is, so they just know a ton of people. So there's a lot of guests. Michael Kiwanuka is involved with it. He sings on 1 or 2 songs. I know you like him.
Yeah, I do.
And the producer of his most recent record is kind of the main producer of this SAULT collective.
Interesting. It's
kind of that vibe. I mean, it's not dissimilar, but it's more sort of R&B, funky, weird, lots of bleeps and bloops here. Lots of fuzzy, glitchy bass. And another one that feels okay. So anyway, the name of this record, the one they put out 2 records called Untitled, and then different titles in parentheses. This one is Untitled Black Is. That's the one that I thought was best. But very much focused on kind of the 2020 aspect of the uprising around Black Lives Matter, very focused on, this idea of Black is, what are all the ways to kind of unpack what that means, and very much sort of a moment in the sort of collective global response we were having to dealing with this stuff in a new way. So anyway, I would recommend checking it out. It's very interesting, lots of weird stuff going on, but like some undeniable, just like great songs in the middle of what's kind of an experimental project. But yeah, they were not on my record, and I enjoyed it so much that they made the list. So anyway, Salt.
Gonna check them out.
Yeah.
Especially there's a song called "Only Synth in Church," which sounds like the kind of church that John would want to go to.
I literally have that in my notes to be like, if there's a band that has this as one of their songs, why wouldn't I like them? But I was like, I feel like I'm rambling, but yes, that's the vibe.
Yep. Speaking of synths and bleeps and bloops, 11D7 Basic Glitches.
Hey,
that is another one of my. I feel like I want to. I'm not just throwing this on here to to stroke the ego of our new sugar daddy, Matt Langston. But I mentioned it was Reese who kind of put us onto Basic Glitches when we talked to him, and we're both like, I don't know. I think I've heard of 11D7. I didn't.
Right.
And we were both only maybe tangentially familiar with Matt, and the more I started listening to the record, and we talked about this at length when we covered the album, but the more emotionally connected to it I felt.
Yes.
And the more I resonated with a lot of the stories he was sharing in the album. So, and it's one of the albums, my top albums that I've listened to.
Yes.
According to the data.
Okay.
So I was like, I can't not include that.
Yes.
It's like, if it's the hard data is there showing me that
Right.
I've like listened to this a shitload, I feel like I need to give it that shout.
Well, guess what? It was also my number 10.
And then it got bumped
Suicide Machines. Sorry, Matt. I had very similar notes here to what you just said. I was like, I promise there's no payola here. This isn't a pay to play deal. I love our dude. And I listened to this record a ton. Like it was certainly one of my most listened to albums. Yeah. It's so good. I'm a big fan of how he approaches songwriting and craft in general, but I really feel like it's this record where it kind of came to a place where I'm just like, oh, this is completely my vibe. And not killing my vibe. And I love the record. So anyway, sorry, Matt, it is now in the honorable mentions, what has moved into the top 10, thanks to Andrew, having me call an audible. Suicide Machines, Revolution Spring. I mean, we've talked about it a fair amount. You said everything I would have to say, but until I forgot that it came out this year, it really felt like another one of those perfect 2020 records. A band that, kind of like we were saying with some other bands, hadn't done anything in 15 years, or at least released an album, and had some suspicions maybe about how it would turn out, and it really, to me, feels very classic Suicide Machines. I love the sound. I love that they don't hold back at all. They really are addressing a lot of things that feel very prescient, as we said. So anyway, I can't not slide that one in there. But I will put 11D7's Basic Glitches. Oh my god. 11D7's Basic Glitches in my honorable mentions. I have a few other honorable mentions to shout out. Do you have any others you want to?
Why don't you go for it? Sure.
So yes, Jason Isbell, as you mentioned, again, he's kind of another one of my favorite artists, but the album, while I like it a lot, just didn't kind of reach the top tier. I would also say that about Run the Jewels, who put out RTJ 4. These last couple RTJ records I do like a lot, but not on the level of the first couple for me. And then Waxahachie, do you know her?
No.
I feel like you'd appreciate. It's basically another kind of Perfume Genius situation where it's basically just one lady, but she put out a record called St. Cloud that, again, very kind of emotional and vulnerable, but I like that record a lot too.
I want to shout out our boy Kevin Max, who put out Radio Technica,
Yeah.
this year. Very clubby sort of drum and bass, spoken word kind of stuff, and very into it. Didn't make obviously my top 10, but I definitely think worth shouting out. And I feel like it was sort of a cheat if I were to include a deluxe version of an album like
probably.
that came out last year, and then they released a deluxe version with 3 new songs on it. So I was like, I'm not gonna, that's bullshit. But
Sure.
it's, Masked Intruder, their album 3 Turbo, with
That's awesome.
with it's I mean, it's already an awesome cover, but the cover uses makes it even more 80s style. So but they included a cover of Bad Reputation,
Okay.
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And 2 other unreleased songs. But that's Masked Intruder is always going to be one of my all-time faves, but I'm sure there are other 2020s that I'm not including, but
Yeah, for sure. As evidenced by your list of stuff that I just completely forgot about. I'm sure there's other stuff we're both completely forgetting about.
Yeah.
I think that is a really cool collection of songs from both of us here. I'm eager to dive into the stuff that you talked about that I haven't checked out. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I would say at least half of the records on my list were kind of like ones that took some warming up for me, or were just like blind spots for me until later. So it just felt weird in that sense. Like, I feel like a lot of the records I was anticipating when they came out, I was kind of like, okay. But 2020 was a weird year. And as much as I totally understand, like, wanting something positive to listen to for it, I almost felt like kinship with a lot of these weirder elements of some of my favorite artists doing stuff. So interesting year for music.
A notable lack of hip hop.
Yeah,
on this
I thought
list.
the same thing. Right. And when I was thinking that, I wondered if you would have any. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to just like slide one in because I don't have any. But I don't know. I couldn't really think of too many that like really, I mean, like I said, Run the Jewels. I know like Lil Uzi Vert, people like his record a lot.
So Run the Jewels 4, it didn't hit me in the way some of their past releases have.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that I dislike it. It's just it was not one of those albums that I was ever really like finding myself returning to.
Right. And we didn't do, so we did 2018, we did 2019, we've done 2020. It must have been the year before that, I think. Whenever RTJ2 came out, because I'm a nerd and I was doing these lists even when we didn't have a podcast to do it on, that was my number one for that year. That was a while ago. That was 2014, I guess.
Yeah, Run the Jewels 3 was 2016.
Okay. But I remember RTJ2 being my number one of that year.
That was a great,
and I kind of
record.
Keep waiting for them to get back to something at that level, and they haven't done it for me yet. But anyway, yeah, agreed about hip hop. It's interesting because I feel like there was a year there where it kind of dominated our list in some ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us know your favorites. Sorry, Five Iron, you don't quite make the cut unless you get this release out before the end of the year. Maybe call an audible.
You have 28 days.
That's right. But yeah, let us know what some of your favorites were. Let us know why we were wrong about certain things. I don't want to hear about the Dixie Chicks. They're great. This album rules. But yeah, this was fun to do.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to cover here?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of what we came here to do. Yeah. So I don't think we have a firm date of when we're going to release season 3. But I think at
No.
this point, it's probably going to be January.
I think so, which is when we started season 2. Does that make sense in a certain way? It's much less, it's fewer months in between seasons than last time. So even though it's been a while, as we said, it's not quite as long a stretch between seasons 1 and 2 as it will be for 2 and 3. But thanks for bearing with us.
Thank you to the Patreon punks who have stuck with us through all this. I know we haven't really been putting out a lot of stuff, but
we may have a special Christmas holiday special in the works.
That's true.
Head over to the Patreon, see what's going on there. We'll put out something between now and proper season 3.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, hit us up on those socials at Magnified Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. Give us a rating or review, as I said. Email us at magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
You can leave us a voicemail at 872-762-4763, 8727-MAG-POD.
As we said, check out that Patreon for some bonus content, patreon.com/magnifiedpod. You can pick up some merch, magnifiedpod.storeenvy.com. We will have some cool season 3 merch coming eventually at some point here. Promise you'll like it. Thanks to our shadow producer, Jason, at Unoriginal Vinyl. Thanks to Heavy Ordnance Studios and Danny Leary for our artwork. Well, 2020 is winding down, but only for this year. We want you to be found enjoying the next year with us.
For more shows like this one, visit rockcandyrecordings.com.